Hello, in today's lesson I'm going to talk about Manchester City and the ban in football. I'm going to try to talk about speculating in the future using will, may or might, and lots of business vocabulary to talk about Manchester City's situation at the moment. I'm sorry it's been a long time with no lesson, but it's the winter in the UK. It's a bit cold, it's a bit wet, it's windy at the moment, but let's do this. Okay, so big news this week was Manchester City, or Uefa's announcement that Manchester City are banned. This word bans, which means they cannot join any UEFA competitions for two years, 2 seasons. That's next season and the season after. Okay, so that's what has happened. So UEFA have announced, it's the present perfect tense, they have announced a 2-year ban for Manchester City. Why? Why have UEFA announced this? Okay, so they have been investigating Manchester City because they set a rule called the Financial Fair Play, FFP rule, that teams cannot spend a lot of money on players. So teams cannot spend too much money on players when they are not getting the income, they are not getting the revenue. They are not getting an income or a revenue, or they are not selling players. So Manchester City have spent a lot of money on players. So that's the English there, spend something on. So you spend money on something. So they have spent a lot of money. Their net spending. So net spending is transfers in minus transfers out. I think is much higher than other teams. So I think lots of teams have spent a lot of money. Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Manchester United, Barcelona. I think they're all close to the 1 billion spending mark in the last 10 years. But Manchester City's net spending, which is transfers in minus transfers out, is higher than a lot of teams. It's much higher than a lot of teams. Manchester City tried to justify this. So justify is a nice word. They tried to justify their spending by inflating. So they inflated, like you inflate a football. They inflated their revenue and their income. They said they were getting more money from sponsorship deals than what they really were getting, to try to justify or to prove that they had lots of revenue and income, so it justified spending money on players. Okay, so they exaggerated. They said the money that they got from sponsorship was higher than what they actually received. A lot of the times the money from sponsorship, I know they got money from, it was the owners, like friends or family, who paid them incredible amounts of money to sponsor the players' lounge or for something. So they were false. They were fake sponsorship deals, really. But I have sympathy. I have sympathy with Manchester City. I think they are not a massive club. They are not Real Madrid or Manchester United. So their revenue from football kits or sponsorship around the world is not as much as Real Madrid or Manchester United. So what can they do? How can they get the best players? How can they spend so much money on players when they cannot get the income? They are increasing their income and they are increasing their revenue, but they cannot have the same revenue and income at the moment, but maybe for a long time as well. They cannot have the same revenue and income as Real Madrid or Manchester United. They are huge, massive clubs, traditions, global clubs, and Manchester City are not. So they are trying to jump to Manchester United and Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Liverpool even. They are trying to jump to their level, but financial fair play says they cannot spend all the owners' money on this. So I have sympathy with them. What else can they do? They want the best players. They have an amazing squad of players. They play an amazing brand of football, very attacking. It's Pep Guardiola is an amazing coach, and he has made them play very attractive football. So what can they do, really? So they want to buy the best players, but financial fair play is saying they cannot. I think the Premier League's income and appeal around the world has increased, and the Premier League generates the most money. Now you have teams like, for example, Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain, who are owned by countries, really. The Qatari Foundation that own PSG, and I think the United Arab Emirates own Manchester City. So countries own them now. It's not people, it's actual countries who own these teams. So the La Liga president didn't like this, so he sees his teams, for example, Real Madrid, Barcelona, who are massive teams, but they are under pressure from the growing Premier League. They are under pressure from Paris Saint-Germain. So he has been pushing for UEFA to do something about Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City. And for Paris Saint-Germain, they were found not guilty, I think. They investigated them recently and they were found not guilty. But for Manchester City, the news is that they are guilty and they will be banned from UEFA competitions. Okay, so what will happen? Okay, so let's speculate, talk about the future. So to talk about the future, we use will, may, or might. Will is when you think that something will happen, you are sure. Might and may, you're maybe not so sure. It could happen. You can use could or can in this situation. So Manchester City, they will appeal. They will appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS. So they will appeal this and try to fight this and maybe try to change the decision. But what this means is that Pep Guardiola and some players they may leave the club. If they are not in the Champions League for 2 seasons, Pep Guardiola really wants to win the Champions League. He has said this publicly. It's his dream, it's his goal to win the Champions League with Manchester City. If they are not in the Champions League for 2 seasons, Pep may leave, which is not good for the club. I think they will be okay, but it's not good for the club, really. Also, this means that because Manchester City will not play in next year's Champions League, in England, in the Premier League, the 5th position, so if you finish in position number 5, you will qualify for the Champions League. So this is a big opportunity for some teams. Teams like Sheffield United. So Sheffield United, who were in League One in England, which is the 3rd division 3 or 4 years ago, now they might qualify for the Champions League. Okay, and also teams like Everton, teams like Tottenham, Manchester United, Wolves, now they all have a chance and they might qualify for next year's Champions League. Okay, so it's raining, it's very windy. I tried to make this video because I didn't make one for a long time. What do you think about this? Do you agree with this decision or disagree with it? Do you think it's harsh or lenient? So they are words to describe a punishment. Please like or comment below. Thank you for watching.